Let's talk for a minute about the issue of fairness by the press. And Senator Bryan, I'll have you address this first, if you would, please. Did the press do a fair job? We talked about the question of double standard in covering and presenting both presidential candidates to the voting public. If so, how? And if not, was there a lack of fairness instrumental in any way to how voters perceive each candidate's strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I think the simple answer is that Obama clearly, fared more favorably with the press than John McCain. Whether that was a conscious bias, one can debate that, but clearly he got the benefit of the press coverage. There's no doubt about that. And I think he was cut more slack than, say, McCain and some of the other candidates during the course of the primaries. I mean, his story is pretty compelling. I don't say excuses perhaps the lack of more intense scrutiny that one might have suggested should have been available. But it's a pretty remarkable American story. I got a call from Tom Daschle about a year before that. Said, I want you to meet Barack Obama. To show you what kind of a visionary I am. Barack Obama said, no, very nice man. He's really a real fine senator. I also felt that way when I got a letter from Jimmy Carter in 1976 after one term as governor. I thought, this guy's got two chances, slim and none, to be president. So you can see I'm not exactly a great prognosticator of the future, but there's no question that there is a compelling storyline there. An author, a bestseller, I mean, so much of that's pretty good stuff. And the media did embrace that, embellish it, and kind of made him a larger-than-life political candidate. There's no question in my mind that helped him. Not in any way disparage or denigrate his impressive skills, his oratorical ability, the organizational we talked about, the discipline that he brought to the campaign, recognizing that change trumped experience. That was Hillary's argument. I've got the experience. Recognizing, and this was something I think that was quite sophisticated in the primary, that although most Democrats loved Bill Clinton, many Democrats were not inclined to embrace the Clinton dynasty. I mean, I saw that. I go back to D.C., as an old pensioner, and talk with some of the people that are big Democrats, and it really came through. Everybody recognized what an extraordinarily capable woman Hillary Clinton was and is, her talents. But the idea that they wanted another 4 or 8 years, I think, was a misplaced emphasis, and I think that she really missed that, and Obama seized upon that really was not the winning strategy, and this very effective mantra of change trumped the experience card, in my opinion.
Well, I've already told you how I feel about how the balance was in news reporting. But the one thing that became evident to me was that Obama became omnipresent. In other words, everything was there. It was on the covers of every magazine, and they're using that same theory now, the staff is. And I think they need to do it with caution, by the way. And I'm getting off I'm digressing a little bit from the question you asked, but it kind of ties in together. They used it an awful lot here as a newly elected president in the first 30 days of being in office. They had him everywhere. They had him on television. They had him filmed inside the Senate. People like, as Peggy Noonan said, and she's a terrific writer in the Wall Street Journal, says that people like a little mystification of their president. You don't want to see that person every single day, every moment. There's something to be said for not knowing too much about everybody. You need to be a little mystified. And if they're not careful, they'll oversaturate it. And if they're not careful and there's a bad moment that connects with it, people won't want to see it. And so I think that they have to be very cautious in that regard. And by the way, it's the same thing I used to tell candidates I represented for the United States Senate. Governor, be careful. Too much exposure makes you very vulnerable. too much exposure makes you irrelevant in terms of being looked at with significance when you have something important to say. You don't have to rush to every camera. You don't have to be in every interview. Eisenhower said it best when they asked him, you know, he said, you got to go to New Hampshire. They want you desperately, you know, to run for president. And he said, it's better to be wanted than a wantee. You know, and he never went to New Hampshire and won a nomination. So I always remember that. I do think the media will reflect upon itself. I hope it does. I've talked to a lot of my friends in the media, and a lot of them I disagree with. I mean, in terms of our political thought process. But I had dinner with Maureen Dowd recently. She's a columnist in the New York Times and a very good friend of mine. And I used to talk to John Apple quite a bit about balance and fairness in play. John died not long ago. But they all have the same thoughts when given over a glass of wine talking turkey. They know with a wink and a nod. They understand with a wink and a nod that their paper has got a little bit of bias in the way they write stories. The problem is they're divided. You know, there's stories that are pointed again. I even noticed it more in this election cycle with the Associated Press than I did previously with the way they treated the payroll affair in Alaska. AP is a straight news content provider. That's the essence of what they're supposed to be. And that's why people subscribe to them. But when they write leads and stories that change the dynamic of the story underneath it, it tells you something. Because traditionally they don't do that. And that's why I always said if you're going to break a story, the best place to break it is with AP. You can get that on. If they like it enough, it's going to run in 6,000 newspapers, you know. But I thought that they even had a little twist to the way they wrote. So I think it's over with. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how they try to balance things. Some, I think, feel a little guilty, and some might be a little harsh on the president unfairly because of that. And it does work out. Those are human beings. They write stories based upon emotions just like anybody else. And I think you may see some of that. But I thought all in all, this was the most unbalanced news cycle I've ever seen in a presidential campaign.